In the wake of the mass shooting at a Colorado cinema on July 21st, gun control supporters said it's time to impose new restrictions on firearms in the United States. But in the U.S., many consider owning a gun a constitutional right. On Wednesday, President Barack Obama said some limits, though, do make sense.
A lot of gun owners would agree that AK-47s belong in the hands of soldiers, not in the hands of criminals.
While Obama didn't get into specifics, the U.S. Congress is unlikely to take up the issue in an election year. And even if it did, the National Rifle Association, the most prominent gun lobby in the U.S., would be pressuring both the White House and Congress not to make any changes. The presumptive Republican nominee made it clear he doesn't think firearm restrictions are the answer.
So we can sometimes hope that just changing the law will make all bad things go away. It won't.
Changing the laws won't be easy. Right now, the federal government requires background checks for guns purchased from licensed dealers, but that only covers about 60% of all gun sales in the U.S. Weapons purchased at gun shows or through private sales don't require a background check. What's more, all 50 states have their own laws.
You know, both President Obama and Mitt Romney, and this is a bipartisan concern, need to look at policy as part of the solution, especially when you can point specifically to how policy can prevent tragedies and save lives.
In the wake of last week's shooting, gun sales are up in Colorado. The challenge is figuring out how to cut the number of deaths without trampling on what many consider a vital constitutional right. Rosiland, Jordan, Al Jazeera, Capitol Hill.
And the UN Secretary General says diplomats have made very limited progress in drafting a new global arms agreement. That's after months of negotiations. Delegates have until Friday to come up with the text of what could be the first ever treaty on the matter, but Ban Ki-moon is still urging world powers to bridge their differences. There are no international standards for the sale of conventional weapons. But others are suggesting the diplomats will come up with a draft. Daryl Kimball, for example, of the Arms Control Association, he's optimistic.
In the view of my organization and many of the human rights and development organizations looking at this treaty, progress has been made in closing some of the loopholes that we saw with the earlier draft, but there's more work to be done, and states need to come together to try to strengthen the criteria that would be established for all states when they authorize arms transfers. More work needs to be done to clarify some of the ambiguous language that could leave open loopholes that could allow arms dealing to go on despite this treaty. But we are on the brink of a historic step forward.